questions there.
Okay.
Good morning. I'm Bernard Schoenburg, political writer for the State Journal-Register. Welcome to today's Candidates Forum featuring the two men seeking the Republican nomination for Sangamon County Sheriff, Wes Barr and Jack Campbell. They will face off in the primary election on March 18th. For most of the next hour, opinion page editor Jayette Bolinski and I will ask the candidates questions about the office and provide each person up to 2 minutes to provide answers to each. We'll also work in some questions that you, our viewers and readers, have sent in recent days. We had a coin flip just before this to determine who has the first opening statement and the first closing statement. Mr. Campbell chose to go second, so first opening statement for up to 3 minutes is Wes Barr. And Wes, up to you.
Well, good morning, Bernie. Thank you so much. Let me say thank you to the SJR for hosting this forum. I think it's very important that the voters get to know the candidates and what our positions are to make an informed decision. A lot of people know me through my volunteerism. I've been very active in the community for a number of years. I served 8 years as a Toys for Tots coordinator. I served on the board of the American Red Cross and served chairman of the board. And I also served on the board of Habitat for Humanity, where I served 2 years as president. But let me tell you a little bit about myself. As a young child living in John Hay homes, that takes me back to my earliest memory of when I knew I wanted to be a police officer. I remember my mother took care of my grandmother and my great-grandmother. And whenever we were driving around, they would see a police car, and they were black and white squad cars. And they would point at it. They'd say, "That's going to be you someday. That's going to be you someday." So I grew up believing I was going to be a police officer someday. Graduated from high school, come from a low-income family. My parents were divorced. I knew I couldn't afford to go to college, so I chose the military. And I served 3 years of active duty in the United States Marine Corps. When I got out in January of '85, I started to pursue my career in law enforcement. I was very lucky in 1985, in April to be exact, that I was hired at the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office as a correctional officer. I served 3 years as a correctional officer, and 2 of those 3 years I worked as a part-time police officer in villages in Sangamon County. I worked in Loami, Illiopolis, and Chatham. In 1988, I was hired as a full-time police officer in Chatham. It was an exciting day. You know, we get to go to the academy, and I served in Chatham for 3.5 years. I was a midnight patrolman, and in 1991, Sheriff Bill DeMarco hired me back in the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office as a deputy. You know, being a police officer has been a lifelong goal, and I was very honored to come back to the Sheriff's Office, and I served 22.5 years before retiring May of last year with the intent to run for sheriff. The merit rules made it clear as a merit deputy, if I wanted to run for sheriff, I was going to have to take a leave of absence without pay, which I cannot afford to do. I had to reach my retirement age, and it's a leap of faith that I retired to go out and pursue the office of sheriff. I served in many different divisions in the sheriff's office, as I said, as from a correctional officer to the ranks of sergeant, lieutenant, and I thank Sheriff Noah Williamson for promoting me to sergeant and to lieutenant. And I served 12 years in management. So my goal is to seek the office of sheriff and do the best job I can for the citizens of Sangamon County. I went as high as I can go in the ranks by the testing process without a political appointment. I served 4 years as president of the union of the Front Order of Police Lodge 55, and I've been a township trustee for 8 years. Thank you very much.
And now Jack Campbell.
Well, good morning. I also want to thank the State Journal-Register for hosting the debate today. I'm happy to have the opportunity to answer your questions and to have you get to know me a little bit better. My name is Jack Campbell. I'm 49 years old, and my family consists of my wife, Lori, of almost 29 years, and Lori and I are blessed to have 2 beautiful daughters, Kylie, who's a school teacher, and my youngest daughter, Paxton, who is a freshman at Eastern Illinois University. Currently, I'm the undersheriff here at Sangamon County, and the reason I'm seeking the office of sheriff is literally this job is in my blood. When I was a boy growing up, I sat and listened to my father, Jim Campbell, a 21-year veteran of the sheriff's office, and my great-uncle, Hugh Campbell, who served 2 different terms here, discussed the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office. This is what I remember growing up, and it always fascinated me. But I think the bigger reason is to protect. I want to protect your family just like I want to protect my family. And that's why I'm so passionate about seeking this office. I'm a lifelong resident of Sangamon County. My education consists of, I'm a graduate of Illiopolis High School, of Lincoln Land Community College, of the University of Illinois at Springfield, and the FBI National Academy in Quantico, Virginia. In 1992, I began my career at the Sheriff's Office as an auxiliary deputy. And after I went full-time, I moved throughout the ranks, working in patrol, investigations. I served 4 years on a U.S. Marshals Task Force. I was an ID technician. I served on our Honor Guard and our Tactical Response Unit, or our SWAT team, working my way all the way up to my current position as undersheriff. And the undersheriff, my role is, as the number 2 in command at the Sheriff's Office, is to oversee all day-to-day activities of the Sheriff's Office. I help to oversee the budget, I handle personnel issues, I help negotiate contracts, and just oversee everything that happens at the Sheriff's Office comes through my office. This is an $18 million business. Make no mistake about it. This is a business, and that's how I run it. Our crime rates are down, and I have proven results in my talent at the Sheriff's Office. For 20 years, you've trusted Sheriff Williamson to run this office. 5 times you've elected him to this office, very important office. He's endorsing me. He's seen that I have what it takes to run the Sheriff's Office, and I'm very happy to have that endorsement. I'm also asking for your vote on March 18th. Thank you.
Okay, the first question goes to Jack. Mr. Campbell, excuse me. Responsible taser use by law enforcement is a matter of public interest. Are you concerned about taser use by Sangamon County Sheriff's deputies? And would you make any policy changes concerning those weapons?
2004, the Sheriff's Office went to the Taser, and the point of that was to decrease injuries to both the officers and the suspects alike. It's absolutely a great tool for all of law enforcement. It's a great equalizer. When you're out there on the street by yourself, it gives us an option, and we're very happy that we went to the Taser. Our training program that we currently use goes over and above what Taser International requires. We put people through an 8-hour certification course initially where we require you to receive a hit from the Taser if you're going to carry it, and then yearly, Taser International only requires 6 hours of recertification, and we still go beyond that up to 8 hours. In fact, we even bought Taser suits so that we can do scenario-based training with our deputies and correctional officers that, again, is not required. And the whole point of these scenarios is that you don't always have to apply the Taser. You may just be able to talk the person down. So our Taser program, our Taser training is very successful. Our workplace injuries are down 30%. And I really believe part of that is because of using the Taser rather than going hands-on with the suspects on the street. Our Taser usage is down 80% since I took over as the undersheriff. So I know our officers and our deputies are better understanding the effects of the Taser, as well as the suspects on the street understand that they don't like the feeling of it either. So it's working. We're seeking voluntary compliance. So I know that this program is up and going. I don't have any plans to amend or change the training or the policy we have in place right now. I think it's very successful, and I will continue to use the Taser and employ that as the next sheriff.
Mr. Barr.
The Tasers can be and is an effective tool that's useful to law enforcement. But I think it is a concern to the citizens of Sangamon County, to the taxpayers of Sangamon County. We have a minimum of 5 pending lawsuits against the Sheriff's Office that is reference the use of Tasers. Millions of dollars is being paid out just to defend the cases, not counting the cases that have been settled. I support the use of Tasers, but I think we need to do a better job in our training. I think there's a failure of leadership in the training area. My opponent said that in the recertification, we go above and beyond Taser International, which is they recommend a minimum of 6 hours of training. I disagree with that. The deputies, in fact, we get 3.5 to 4 hours of Taser training in the morning on our in-service training day. It's usually from 8:30 to noon. And then the corrections officers get, last year they had 2.5 hours of training, Taser recertification training. So I think that's an area we need to improve, and when I'm the sheriff, we will. We will meet and exceed the minimum standards set by Taser International. That's very important that we do that because Taser International will come in and help defend a lawsuit if we're following their policies. And so I think it's very important that we do that. When I'm the sheriff, I will ensure that we do that. And within the first 30 days of office, we're going to review all policy procedures, but particularly the Taser's policy procedure. We got to figure out why is the sheriff's office occurring all these lawsuits. I think we're the number one agency in Sangamon County in the area of lawsuits and many agencies carry them. And we need to figure out why. Is it our policy procedures? Is it our training? Is it the attitude of Taser use in the sheriff's office? I believe that as the number 2 person in charge of the sheriff's office, you should not allow a subordinate to tase you outside of policy.
I'm going to move on to the next question, although I know you can use some of your time, either of you, to clear up other issues as we move on. This goes to West Barr. Treatment that some inmates in the jail have received over the years have yielded lawsuits, in some cases because people died. Are you satisfied that the staff and procedures are in place to properly house and protect those who are in jail, and what changes would you make?
I was a correctional officer for 3.5 years. I understand they have a tough job. It is a tough job. It's probably one of the toughest jobs in law enforcement because they're around inmates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I think, again, that we can do a better job in training. We can do a better job in teaching them how control techniques and how to subdue an inmate in a more safer manner. I think they do a great job. I totally support the correctional officers, but I think we can do a better job. Last year, the training budget for the sheriff's office and corrections was $7,220, and they spent $791. I think we can do a better job, and we will do a better job. We will bring in more outside training, more than just the in-service training that is done in-house. I think we have the opportunity to do that, and as the next sheriff, I will ensure that is being done.
Mr. Campbell.
Well, lawsuits are something that inmates file all the time. Just because you say something doesn't make it true. This has been going on for years at the sheriff's office, and every sheriff's office across not only the state of Illinois, but across the country deals with civil litigation involving lawsuits. Our staff does a great job in the jail, and they have a very difficult job. And we have to remember one of the issues in the jail is mental health problems. We constantly deal with inmates that have mental health issues. We have inmates that remain in the jail even though they've been deemed unfit for trial. We are unable to get them out of our facility even though they don't belong there. Our staff is not equipped to deal with these type of mental issues, and often they break out in some sort of physical altercation. The tasers are a great equalizer, and these inmates are often strong, and they certainly don't understand what they're doing sometimes. So the taser is what allows us to equalize the situation in the jail. I want to go back, though, to the last question about lawsuits. I think it's very disingenuous that my opponent would talk about lawsuits. He talks about lawsuits involving tasers, but we haven't lost any involving tasers. Just because they were applied during an altercation that ended up in a lawsuit doesn't mean that we did anything wrong. And I think that when you talk about this in the public, this doesn't show very good leadership. They should be willing to discuss allegations as if they're true. My opponent discussed this within 48 hours of that last lawsuit being discussed, putting our correctional officers in a very difficult position. And I don't know if he realizes it, but he's still subject to be named in lawsuits for another 1.5 years as a defendant. So it's not something you do in the public. We know in law enforcement and leadership in general, you do not discuss lawsuits in the public.
Question 3 goes to Mr. Campbell to start. Freedom of information requests can help keep the public informed and also can be a burden on government offices, including that of the sheriff. What is your philosophy concerning FOIAs, and also how do you feel about releasing internal affairs files?
I am a very transparent person. I am so transparent that I recently released my taxes, and that's something not every candidate will do. I did it first, and I wasn't afraid to put it out there, even though it's something very personal to my family and I. That's an example of how transparent I am, and that's what the basis of FOIA is transparency. I believe that here, even the State Journal Register and most every media outlet would agree that the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office sets the standard when it comes to FOIA response. We almost always beat the deadline, and very rarely do we ask for an extension, even though we can, and most oftentimes we're granted that extension. So we're very happy of our FOIA response. And to answer your other question about IA files, I am open to IA files being FOIA'd. However, there's one aspect of that. On unsubstantiated cases, it's very difficult, and I think sometimes unfair to our employees when there's something that is unsubstantiated. The ones that are substantiated and there's discipline issued, then I believe that's public information that you should have. You should know how your officers are acting and how they've ended up in professional standards. And I'm a supporter of it. And as the next sheriff, I will continue to set the bar where we're at right now. It is a very difficult process for our records division. Our FOIA officer spends virtually all of his day responding to these FOIA requests. So, and many of them are coming from inmates, and that's another area where you have problems where inmates FOIA their mug shots and things like that. They're not really pertinent to their case. So I will continue to do that as the next sheriff, and I believe I'm very open and transparent.
Mr. Barr.
Well, I believe that we should be very transparent as well at the sheriff's office, and I would support the FOIA system as it's being done. In reference to the IA files, I agree with my opponent. If they've been substantiated, they've been disciplined, or the case has been resolved, then yes, it should be. But we should be concerned because allegations could be made at any point in time, and if it ain't substantiated, it's not really fair to the employee to put that information out there. Right now, we have our director of our records division handling all FOIA requests. In my opinion, I think that should be either we hire a new person in the records division to handle FOIA requests and allow him to do his job. He gets paid a lot of money, has a lot of responsibilities. That's being tied up. 80% of his day, every day, is on reference FOIA requests. My opponent talked about releasing his taxes. We released our taxes as well. We were happy to do so. That is transparency. We knew we were going to do it at some point in the race, so I don't really think it matters who did it first. We go back to the last question about the mental health issues in the jail as well. And that's another area I think we failed in leading. The mental health training in the jail is a DVD that the correctional officers get to watch and then take a short test and give it back to the supervisor. We need to bring in mental health experts because that is a large population of the jail, and that is causing a lot of problems. I fully support the mental health court that they're proposing to do, to help these inmates and get them into training, get them into programs that can help them and alleviate their issues and keep them out of the jail.
We go back again to Mr. Barr. What standards would you set for people to apply to be deputies or correctional officers, and what traits would you look for in the people you hire?
Well, thank you, Bernie. And that goes back to my issue of veterans. It is my belief that if you have served active duty in your military and you've been honorably discharged and you want to come back and serve your community, you should be able to do so without the college requirement. They served 4, 6, 8 years in the military. If they served any time in the military at that point, they usually have been promoted and had some leadership positions. They learn a lot of skills in the military that's very applicable to law enforcement, the teamwork, the decision-making, and all those aspects. And I think that those are what we're looking for. I'm not saying that every veteran that comes out needs to be hired as a police officer. But I'm also saying that every person that goes to college, they go to college doesn't make them qualified to be a police officer. We need to look at their traits. We need to hire somebody who has honesty, integrity, common sense, can make a decision, and be compassionate. We're going to teach them how to be police officers. We're going to send them to the police academy where they're going to be there for 12 weeks. They're going to go through an FTO program where we're going to teach them how we want it done in the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office. So I think those skills that they learn in the military and the personal skills I'm looking for in people will make them great police officers.
Mr. Campbell.
Before I answer that one, I want to go back to this FOIA question real quick. My opponent may not realize it, but about 6 months ago, we got a state's attorney assigned to our office to handle the FOIA request. Our FOIA officer simply directs the emails to where they belong, but we have the legal opinion of our state's attorney's office. Regarding education, look, the world is very complex, and it's getting more complex, not less. We need more education, not less education. Martin Luther King said the function of an education is to teach one to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. We have to think critically. We have to maintain the standards that Sheriff Williamson put into place so many years ago. We produce a very professional, equipped deputy and correctional officer prepared to handle the complexities of this very litigious society that we live in. I want to thank my opponent for his military service. I have military veterans in my family, some that gave their lives during the war, and I have a lot of respect for the military that's out there. However, this is a civilian world of law enforcement. You don't get sued in the military whenever you're defending your country. You do get sued here. The military certainly produces a great quality of a person that we can then add the education to make them the best candidate they can be. We already give a military and veterans preference. We only require half the amount of education for our veterans. We recognize their service, but yet we still want them to be equipped and be ready to handle the complexities that are out there. And we have so many people at the Sheriff's Office that have met those standards already. We don't want to go back and change that. We're very happy with what we're producing, and we think we're equipping them for the difficulties on the street. I don't think we need to change the standards. We set these many years ago. We're very happy with who we're producing, but I am looking also for people that are good-hearted. I want a person with a clean background. I want them to have a clean financial background, something where there's no temptations out there. So that is what I'm looking for, and that's what I'll continue to do as your sheriff.
Next question, we'll begin with Mr. Campbell. Sangamon is a large county, but there are limits to how many deputies a sheriff can hire. How would you make sure all parts of the county get adequate patrols and protection?
Sangamon County is about 875 square miles, roughly. It's the 5th largest by land mass in the state of Illinois. We are an agricultural society, but yet we have an urban population centered here in the city of Springfield. About 60 to 70% of our calls come in the unincorporated areas of Springfield. We have to assign our manpower where the crime is at. That is the definition of directed patrol. Put your cars where the crime is at. Our response times are fantastic. This was recently done back in 2009. A firm called DMG Maximus did a study of our manpower. And I almost can quote you that they said our response times was fantastic. It was incredible, in fact. And that tells us what we're doing is working. And we don't need to go back and change something that is not broken. I work constantly with the Farm Bureau to address their concerns. I've been a rural resident of Sangamon County my entire life, so I know what it's like to be out there far from Springfield and far from possible response for law enforcement. But that being said, our guys do a great job of getting there quickly to these very important calls. And I will continue to assign deputies as we're doing it currently. I think we're getting good coverage. If we had more manpower, we certainly could get better coverage. We're down about 20% of our manpower, and this has been through attrition since 2009. But the crime rates are down. So what we're doing is working, and I have no intention of changing anything or disrupting something that is so successful.
This goes back to the issue I brought up about directed patrols and how I think we can do a better job patrolling the county jurisdiction. You know, my opponent throws out there that 30 or 67% of the crime occurs in the unincorporated areas of the city, and that may be true by stats. That means 30 to 40% is occurring out in the county, and we need to do a better job of patrolling that. My idea under directed patrols is to break down the county jurisdictions just a little bit better for more accountability for the supervisors and for the administration of the sheriff's office. Right now, people may not realize it, but a West County and an East County car have a very large district to patrol. They go all the way from Illiopolis to Williamsville, and if you're, I'm sorry, all the way from Williamsville to Divernon, and if you're West County, it's all the way out to Pleasant Plains in the outlying county area, and if you're East County, all the way out to Illiopolis. My idea is break those down into sub-districts, so you have a northern, a central, and a southern. And so the day shift supervisor, when he comes in, he could say, West County car, I want you for a specific period of time. It might be all day, it might be a couple hours, wherever it may be. I want you in the northern part of West County today. And so when the second shift supervisor comes in, he can look at that and says, okay, we know that the day shift had a car in this part of the area of the county. West County car, I want you in the central or southern part, wherever the supervisor deems where the area needs to be covered. And what this does, it eliminates, and only by mistake, the officers do a great job, they go out, they patrol. But if you get a deputy comes in and says, I'm going to go patrol West County today, and I'm going to hit Sherman, Williamsville, up in that area, and then the second shift comes in and says, I'm going to patrol West County today, I'm going to patrol Williamsville, Sherman, in that area, not knowing where the day shift car had been. I think that, it can lead to better coverage. And what it does, it accounts for more accountability. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I wasn't looking at you.
And we go right back to Mr. Barr again.
Yes.
Are you comfortable with the state's new concealed carry law, and what would you as sheriff do to make sure people that you think shouldn't be carrying firearms are kept from getting permits?
I am comfortable with it. I'm a supporter of the Second Amendment, and I'm a supporter of concealed carry, and always have been. It does not make our job any harder. In fact, every traffic stop we make, every call of service we go to, we treat somebody like they're armed anyway until we know they're not. And so your law-abiding citizens is not a concern to me. They're going to tell us, I'm a concealed carry permit holder, here's my card, here's my weapon. So I think I support concealed carry. I give my opponent and the sheriff's office credit. They've done a great job in ensuring that the citizens of Sangamon County have the ability to go down, submit the application, get fingerprinted, and help them out with the requirements of getting a concealed carry. There is certain guidelines that has already been set by the state police that we have to and we should be able to, that we should follow, and we will. That if we have an objection to a concealed carry permit holder, that we can do that. And once they have a concealed carry license, if something comes up where they should no longer have a concealed carry license, there is an appeal process of that, and we will follow that.
Mr. Campbell.
Well, I've also been a big supporter of concealed carry. In fact, I tried to figure out why Illinois thought they were right and the other 49 states were all wrong for all these years. It simply kept good people from having the ability to protect themselves and their family like I can. And I want to thank my opponent for talking about our computer out in the lobby. That's one of the reasons why we are the #1 law enforcement agency in the area, is ideas like this. We were afraid there were people that would not have access to the internet. We set up a computer in their lobby at no cost to taxpayers so that people can come in and apply for their concealed carry permits online, and we're giving them technical assistance to walk them through the process. And we've done this for dozens of people so far, and we're going to continue to do this just as long as we possibly can. We are not required to look at these applications at all. We can simply just let them all go through. But we are going through them meticulously, one by one, of all the residents that are in county jurisdiction. We've looked at about 600 so far, and we've approved every single one of them. I told the sergeant that I delegated to approve these applications, if you think there's any reason that you're going to disallow somebody to have a concealed carry permit, you're going to come check with me first, because it better be a good reason to take away somebody's constitutional right to carry a weapon to protect themselves. So again, we're on record as being fans of this, being supporters of it, and we don't just talk about it. We give examples like setting up this computer and giving people technical assistance to help them through the process. So I will continue to do that as the next sheriff.
The next question will start with Mr. Campbell. Are you satisfied that the Sheriff's Office personnel makeup adequately reflects the racial diversity of the community it serves? And if not, what would you do to improve the situation?
Well, the makeup of the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office is about 11% right now minorities. In Sangamon County, you're looking at 18%, and this includes all the minorities. I want to better reflect the population of Sangamon County. We do our best to recruit. I recently obtained a minority recruiting paper from retired U.S. Marshal Bob Moore. Marshal Moore is a person that we included in our Statesman of Law Enforcement, where we brought together administrators and top officials from law enforcement agencies around the area to answer questions just like this about minority recruiting. And Marshal Moore, being a minority himself, is able to give me valuable insight. I will never quit trying to improve the diversity of the Sheriff's Office. I just recently went on a recruiting trip out to UIS, where I'm seeking to improve those numbers. We're always seeking the best applicant that we can, but we certainly have to realize and understand that the minority population in Sangamon County has got to be included in all divisions of the Sheriff's Office. So I will always work to improve that number, and I will work with the Statesman of Law Enforcement, who, again, we have all of these centuries of experience I'm going to be able to tap into to ask them what they've ran into, how did they improve their numbers, and I will always work with them to improve our numbers at Sangamon County Sheriff's Office.
Well, I believe we can and should continue to recruit minorities. it's an important job that we, as the Sheriff's Office, be able to reflect our community with our personnel. So I would continue doing that. I have a lot of contacts in all aspects of the minority population, and I will continue working with them. Yeah, I want to bring up the statement of law enforcement that the committee was formed, and I find that very interesting when that was formed. The sheriff had been the sheriff for over 18 years at that point. The undersheriff had been in administration for 5 or 6 years at that point, and they never had this committee. 3 weeks before they came up with this committee, it was in Bernard Schoenburg's article how I was going to start a law enforcement advisory committee on my campaign to help address issues in the community concerning the sheriff's office, and so we can provide more accurate and information and how to develop answers to positions and problems that were occurring. I have about 8 people on my law enforcement advisory committee that nobody knows about, only because I didn't do it for a media blitz. He's got some great people, some great names on his law enforcement, statesman law enforcement, all nice people. I know probably 95% of them, great people, but they have not worked the streets of Sangamon County. The people on my law enforcement advisory committee, chiefs of police, retired deputies from the sheriff's office, retired command staff from the sheriff's office, a former chief or a former sheriff of a nearby county. And I go to these committees, I ask them the questions, we formulate what is the best policy for the sheriff's office and what's the best thing we can do for the citizens of Sangamon County. And thank you.
And I'm going to let Mr. Barr continue on with this question. What would be your policy for enforcing driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs? And do you believe in the use of roadside safety checks that involves pulling over drivers that haven't done anything wrong? And just to follow up to that, would you like to see a roadside safety check near one of your fundraisers?
Well, we ask everybody to drink responsibly and, to come out and have fun, but be responsible. In fact, that's one of the positions we're getting ready to put out here shortly is I would like to bring back the DUI patrol officer, whether that be a full-time position or a part-time position. I want to check with the Illinois Department of Transportation, see if the LAP grant is still available, which I believe it is. I've been told it is, which is local alcohol programs, and see how much funding is available. If there's enough funding that we can hire an officer and use them full-time, that's what I would do. I think it's very important that we get back to DUI enforcement. If the total funding is not available and only a partial funding is available, then I'd like to bring back what we used to have is hire back positions that was directly for DUI patrol. That when they came in, that was their only sole responsibility was to go out and do DUI enforcement. So I already have a plan. In fact, we're getting ready to put something out probably today or tomorrow. We were just finalizing some of the details. We've been working on it over the weekend. And so, yes, I support that, and yes, I'd bring it back.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell?
Yes, I'm in favor of roadside safety checks. These are very necessary to keep our streets safe, to keep our kids safe. And it seems intrusive to some people, but it absolutely is necessary to ensure that everybody's driving safely on the road. I can let my opponent know that there are no LAP grants available, and they have not been for over a year. We are currently getting STEP grants from IDOT, where we go out and enforce DUI laws during the holidays, and we post it as hire back. I was very disappointed when we lost the LAP grant from IDOT. Getting DUI drivers off the road is very, very important. It's something we can never, ever give up on. And I also plan to reassign a deputy in my tenure as sheriff, one way or another, as a DUI patrol car. If you have a specialized car doing this, they're much more efficient, and they're much more up on the nuances of the law. And the other deputies can also help out by making traffic stops and calling the DUI deputy to come over and handle it for him, and they can quickly get through the paperwork. It's something that's very passionate of mine, is keeping the streets safe. And DUI enforcement is very necessary. It's something that we can't let it go. When we lost that DUI grant, we went from arresting about 200 to 250 DUI people a year down to less than 100, and that's unacceptable. We have worked with our shifts and asked them to increase their DUI arrest It's very difficult when we're down the type of manpower that we're down. You know, we have 35,000 calls for service that continue to come in no matter what else happens out there on the street. So it's very important that we enforce these laws and keep our streets safe, but I also know there's limitations, and I'm working with IDOT. I just met with them last week to discuss the possibility of a partial grant. So it's something I will continue to do as the sheriff, and I will always enforce the DUI laws.
The next question will begin with Mr. Campbell. This is a somewhat massive, multi-part budget question. Does the sheriff's office have enough money to properly operate? And if not, how would you propose raising adequate funds? Should there be a new law enforcement tax imposed? And are there programs or services that have been cut that you would reinstate? And if so, which ones and why?
Well, it's to ask if we have enough money to operate the sheriff's office is very subjective. You know, we certainly would like to have more money. Everybody would like to have more money. Our budget for fiscal year 2014 is a little over $18 million. That's about exactly what we spent in 2008. We've attrited down about 20% of our manpower. I am not in favor of, at this time, of a public safety sales tax that you refer to. Back in 2009, when Sheriff Williamson reintroduced this idea, we were looking at 14 layoffs. We had just handed out 14 layoff notices to our deputies, and it was a very tough time at the sheriff's office. And we felt like this 0.25% public safety sales tax would generate between $4 and $5 million for law enforcement in Sangamon County. And all it was doing was adding a quarter to every $100 worth of goods that you would buy on the street, and we thought that was a good trade-off. Those times are over with. We got through the tough times, and our crime rates are down. So what we're doing is working. We've managed through leadership to be more efficient with our manpower, more efficient with our money. I continue to work with the county board to better understand the budget process and to learn to tighten our belts. We're running stats on our deputies, ensuring that they're out there working hard and making sure that the taxpayers here are getting the most for their dollar. So right now, currently, I'm satisfied with our budget. I believe we have enough to operate safely. I would love to bring things back like crime prevention. I would love to put people out on task forces across the county to work with the federal agencies out there. I would love to add manpower across the board in every division we have. All these things would make our county safe, but we are safe right now. Our crime rates are down in every reportable index category, so I know for a fact that what we're doing is working, and I will continue to work that hard as your sheriff for this county.
Could you repeat that question? That was a long one.
Does the sheriff's office have enough money to properly operate? And if not, how would you propose raising adequate funds, for example, the law enforcement tax? And are there programs or services that have been cut that you would reinstate? And if so, which ones and why?
Okay, thank you. Well, I agree we can always use more money, like every other department in the county government can use more money. Unfortunately, funds are limited. So, you know, I understand the restraints that you can have on a budget. One of the programs I would bring back is crime prevention. I think it's very important that we be able to go out and educate people how not to be victims of crime. And the goal is, if we can teach them how not to be victims of crime, your calls for service will go down. You know, the budget's a little over $18.1 million, but 85 to 90% of that budget is already allocated to salary and fringe benefits. And then if you put in top of that the $770,000 for the medical services in the jail, the almost $500,000 for the food for the inmates, and then we average about $300,000 a year in gasoline for the squad cars, and another $100,000 for the purchase squad cars. So by the time you take it all into consideration, you're down to 96, 97% of your budget is already spoken for. So my goal is to go in and look at that 3 to 4% and see if we can move some money around. But my number one top priority is to bring back the crime prevention division.
Okay, this question again goes to you, Mr. Barr. Given your experience, what is the toughest part of the job of deputy, and how would you counsel those in your department to handle that task?
That's a good question. The whole job is tough. They put their lives on the line every day. Every day they come to work. You know, when you go for a call for service, you don't know what you're going to run into. And so we teach them to rely on your training, rely on your gut instinct that if you feel something's wrong, something's wrong. That's what we did as supervisors on the shifts, is we mentored young deputies, and we gave them our experiences and helped them through situations. And so it's a tough job. But most people do it because they love the job and they love the community and they want to continue to serve. And so that's my goal. That's my goal as a sheriff, is to ensure that we meet their needs.
Mr. Campbell?
Well, it's all tough, especially our correctional officers in the jail. They have to deal with the inmates who are looking for reasons to sue them. Our deputies on the street see some of the worst things you've ever seen in your life during their shifts, and stuff on their families. We have families that were used to us being gone all hours of the day and night and being paged out at 2 o'clock in the morning in the middle of the winter to go serve a search warrant. Again, it's a very difficult job. You're always questioned about everything that you do in the manner in which you do it. But I want to go back to the budget question. My opponent, again, talks about being down to managing 3 to 4% of the budget. This really reveals his lack of understanding of the budget process. When we budget, I like to ask somebody ahead of time, how many storms are we going to have this winter? How many homicides are we going to have? Ask families how they budget with a lot less than $18 million in their household. Ask small business owners how they budget for catastrophes and injuries and things like that. That's exactly why you have to have the understanding that I have of the budget. My opponent recently mentioned that we only use 10% of one of our line items in the budget. What he didn't understand was we didn't need that money. That was money that was set aside for a specific purpose, and we didn't hire anybody to send to training, so we didn't have to use it. We have a bottom line budget, and I'm able to move money around within that budget to pay for other needs. So again, this is something that my opponent lacks the understanding, and for him to say that managing this budget at the sheriff's office is no big deal, I like to ask the families and small businesses in Sangamon County if they think managing a budget is no big deal.
Mr. Campbell, what is your view of the ceasefire program that's coming to Springfield?
Well, I believe that when we put people that have experienced the violence that the people that they want to bring into this program, when you put them in front of the youngsters in our community, they can really make a difference. I think it's a brilliant idea to bring people in that have experienced this, that have suffered through the tragedy and have seen what this can do to families, and use them to mentor the young kids. It's a very important process. It's fairly new around here. It's something that I would like to see the sheriff's office try to participate in. Again, we're lacking manpower, but I believe that, again, somebody that has walked it and lived it and understands about these violent situations, and they can mentor these kids and tell them, here's your life. Here's what is going to happen to you. This book has already been written, and here's the end of it. That should shock these kids into realizing that life is very precious, and every moment is precious, and freedom is precious, and you don't want to be without any of them. So I'm a fan of it, and I hope that we can participate in it.
Mr. Barr?
Yes, and I also agree. I think anytime we can go out and educate the young people how not to be involved in these type of activities and what the results can be if they do get involved with them, it's about education. It's about mentoring, and I fully support that. Let me go back to the budget issue. It's kind of interesting. I never did once say that this budget was no big deal and we couldn't manage it. It is a big deal, and it's taxpayers' money, and we got to manage it to the best of our abilities. One of the things I'll do when I come in as a sheriff is we're going to review every contract and every purchase that we make that probably has not been done for a while. I use the analogy is when you go to the store. If you go to the same store all the time, you get comfortable, that's where you go shop. But when you move to a new city, you shop around, and you find the best deals, the best merchandise at the best price, and you start doing that type of business. So as a new fresh perspective, a new fresh set of eyes coming into the sheriff's office and say, you know what, we're going to review every one of these contracts, and are we getting the best we can for the taxpayers? Are we getting it for the best price we can? And that's where I think we can probably do some cost savings.
Okay. Mr. Barr, if you get elected, Mr. Barr, will you have an undersheriff? Why is one needed, and who would it be?
Well, thank you, Bernie. First of all, I will not have an undersheriff. I will put the title back to chief deputy where it has been for the last 30 years. I think everybody knows it was done for political reasons. It was done to allow my opponent to continue to working at the sheriff's office and collect his salary, which no other deputy has that option. The merit rules say you must take a leave of absence. And it was also done to confuse the voters that think that he is the automatic incoming sheriff. And I think that's wrong. I can tell you right now, there will be no undersheriff. It'll go back to chief deputy, because when I'm the sheriff, there'll be one sheriff in that department. And there'll be one sheriff helping run day-to-day operations. It won't be dedicated to somebody else.
I think we need some time for the answers. Mr. Campbell.
Well, my opponent has just offended the man that you've put in this office for 20 years. My job, my title was changed to undersheriff to reflect my duties. None of my predecessors was doing what I'm doing. None of my predecessors go to the county board meetings and help to work on budgets and negotiate contracts, and spend nights and weekends out doing things that the sheriff had done in the past, and he needed some help, and I was happy to jump in and help him out. When I'm elected sheriff, I will also return this title to chief deputy, because the new person in second command will not be doing what I'm doing right now. One of the Sheriff Williamson's jobs is staff development. That's what anybody does in a professional agency. They develop people, they're prepared to take over immediately should some tragic event occur or they're unavailable to be at the scene. And that's exactly what Sheriff Williamson's been doing with me for the last 6 or 7 years. The merit system simply talks about people that have gone through the testing procedure to attain rank. Once you're in an appointed position, you no longer fall into the merit commission. There was nothing special done regarding my title. Had any of my predecessors or current captains chose to run for office, they'd have been in the same position that I'm in now. The merit system only applies to people that have gone through the testing procedure and they are sergeants or lieutenants. There was, again, nothing sinister done here. This is all above board. Nobody's once said that we did anything wrong or illegal. This is just simply right now pandering about my job title.
Mr. Campbell, please outline what plans you have to protect schools in the county.
Well, it's something I'm very passionate about. I've been going into schools now for many years, and I was talking to them about driver's education classes about distracted driving. However, my work on our tactical response unit and our training in the schools, and then it seems like a increase in school violence has taken this down a whole new path. After the Newtown tragedies, I went out and met with not just all the school districts, which I did, and went over their safety plans, but I also met with Jeff Vose, our regional superintendent of schools, and I met with all the superintendents in Sangamon County and explained to them their deficiencies in their plans and how they could better protect their schools. One of the things that I recently just started at the sheriff's office, part of my campaign, was something called a START team, and this is a school tragedy assessment and response team. Historically, law enforcement and first responders go into schools after a tragedy. It could be a violent act. It could be a weather-related act. It could be a tornado that went through where our kids have been traumatized. I have kids of my own. I'm a father, and I know exactly what your fears are. I know exactly what you'd expect of leaders at the sheriff's office. And by creating this team at no cost to taxpayers, we're going to go out and go to the schools in the aftermath of tragedy and possibly just be there to just comfort them. It wouldn't even require special training. It doesn't require a certain rank at our department, and it certainly won't be anything we have to hire somebody for. This is simply sending out somebody, preferably an administrator, the sheriff or I or one of our captains, to go out and be in the schools during the aftermath and show them that we're not just there to arrest bad guys. We're not just there when a violent act occurs and then you never see us again. We're going to be there in the aftermath to help provide comfort for the kids. And I know they want that because I'm a father.
Mr. Barr.
Time for one more, Mr. Moderator. To West. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. And I think that's where my director of patrols can come in, is that the supervisor can direct our deputies to be at schools at certain times during the day when there's high traffic areas, but also to encourage them and require them to get out at these rural schools and do walkthroughs. If they're not busy, if they're out in that village, that community, they should be able to get out and go do a walkthrough and make those contacts he's talking about. I think the START program, he's talking about pandering to voters. I think that's another prime example of of him trying to pander to voters is there's already a system in place of what he already wants to do. We have CIT officers, crisis interventions officers, that are first responders to tragic accidents or tragic scenes, and to maintain that scene until professionals arrive. The school system, the school districts already have in place a system where psychologists and psychiatrists come in and meet with these students, the students that need to talk to somebody, and provide those services. You know, we go back to the undersheriff title, though. You know, he said that he's doing something that no other chief deputy's ever done, which I totally disagree. When the Sheriff Williamson announced that he was changing his title, he even said at the time, his duties aren't changing, his salaries aren't changing, his salary is not changing. I just think it better reflects what he does for the sheriff. So I don't see what's changed over the years, and obviously he doesn't think it's all that important because he's going to change it back to the chief deputy position.
It has been a very fast hour, almost hour, and we've reached the time for closing statements. We'd like to, in advance, thank Wes Barr and Jack Campbell for joining us here today. I'm trying to make sure, are we okay with 2-minute closing statements? Is that what, everybody's on the same page? And if I am correct, Wes Barr goes first with the closing.
Are you correct, Ben?
Help me out.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you. And, you know, and thank the SJR for hosting this forum. I think it's very important that we get to inform the voters of our positions and our ideas. I think my life experiences makes me the most qualified to be the next sheriff. All the way from my childhood to my service in the United States Marine Corps to my 20.5 years in law enforcement, serving in all different divisions of the sheriff's office. I think what really separates us apart is my community service, my dedication to the community that I've spent for the last 20 years. Being involved with organizations and people's times of need and those who need a hand up. You know, I did this without pay. I did it on my own time. I served as the director of the American Red Cross. I served as 2-term president of Habitat for Humanity. 8 years running the Toys for Tots program, going all the way from 8,000 toys the first year to giving out to children to 22,000 my final year. I think it's those experiences that it really reflects what a sheriff should be doing. I was very honored to be recognized by several community organizations over the years. In 2004, I was awarded the Law Officer of the Year by the Springfield JCs. In 2007, the State Journal Register First Citizen Award. Also in 2007, the American Red Cross Public Safety Hero Award. In 2010, I was a Paul Harris Fellow with the Rotary. In 4 years consecutive, I was voted #1 Volunteer of the Year by the Illinois Times. And I think that's the type of resume that the citizens need to be looking for their next sheriff. Not only do I have the law enforcement experience, I have the military experience, and I have the community experience to move the sheriff's office forward. And that's why I'm asking for your vote on March 18th. Thank you.
And now for closing, Jack Campbell.
Well, thanks again for hosting it today. What I think you've heard here today is the difference between somebody with experience running the sheriff's office and somebody that just simply wants the job. I have experience and I have proven results. Our crime rates are down across the board. What we're doing is working. I started programs like this START team that we talked about a little bit ago. I started the Statesman of Law Enforcement. We set up the computer to better allow access for a concealed carry permit. These are the type of things that I bring to the table and I will continue to do at no cost to the taxpayers. My work with the county board on the budget and many other processes has earned their trust. I've worked with the state's attorney's office. I work with our labor attorneys and our private attorneys for civil litigation. And I have these people calling me about cases that don't involve the sheriff's office. I am earning the trust of the stakeholders in the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office and Sangamon County government. I'm tough, I'm firm, I'm consistent with our employees. That's what they expect. I also hope to earn the trust of the voters out there as they move forward to get closer to the primary. I've given you facts and figures. I've given you tangible evidence of my abilities to run the sheriff's office. I haven't just talked about it. You don't have to wonder what type of sheriff I'm going to be. You already see the results in it, and the results speak for themselves. Sangamon County is safer. Crime rates are down due to the policies and procedures that I've been involved in instituting and will continue to move forward as the next sheriff. I don't need on-the-job training. I'm ready to go today. I hope you've gotten to know me a little bit better today. If you need to know more about me, certainly you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and I'm anxious to earn your vote as the next Sangamon County Sheriff.
Thank you to both of the candidates, Jack Campbell and Wes Barr. Thanks to all of the voters who tuned into today's live stream and came to see us here. I'd like to point out there's also a Democratic primary on the 18th, and Jeff Regan is running as a write-in candidate. Election day is March 18th. A replay of this forum will be available, we hope, later today and forevermore on sj-r.com. Thanks so much for watching.